So in the wake of the newly released 3 million files on the Epstein case, more and more people are looking at Eyes Wide Shut and are thinking, did Stanley Kubrick know? It wouldn't be the first time that Stanley exposed something really naughty, very dark, going on in the very depths of American and international society. With A Clockwork Orange, he essentially exposed MKUltra several years before it became public knowledge.
This would sharpen you up and make you ready for a bit of the old ultra-violence.
In that movie, he shows government performing some really inhumane brainwashing being done on male prisoners, male criminals, to the point where you actually really sympathize with them because of just the monstrosity of what they are going through. And with Eyes Wide Shut, he's done something very similar.
Ladies, where exactly are we going?
Where the rainbow ends. Don't you want to go where the rainbow ends?
Well, now that depends where that is.
Well, let's find out.
And the more that is coming out, the more that is being released, the more that is seeing the light of day when it comes to this whole thing, the more we are seeing that Eyes Wide Shut have been warning us all along.
Did you hear something?
We were invited here by the young lady.
Young lady, it is my daughter! Couldn't you see she is a child?
For you guys who haven't watched Eyes Wide Shut, or have watched it maybe a long time ago, or you didn't really go deep into it and you're like, what are these people talking about? It's just a movie, it's just based on a book, it's a movie about, jealousy and, the difficulties of navigating marriage life. What are you guys talking about? Yeah, sure, there's some sex scenes and some naughty business, but yeah, so what? It's based on a book from whatever, the 1900s. It's about masquerade culture. What are you guys talking about? Well, here's the thing, Stanley Kubrick, and this goes for all his movies, not just Eyes Wide Shut, but I would say especially Eyes Wide Shut, they are highly, highly, highly encoded with symbology, with subliminal messages, right? Stanley Kubrick was perhaps the most meticulous, multi-layered director that we have, right? He did not make movies to be watched just one time and just looking at the sort of superficial plot level. No. He expected the people, at least, who actually want to understand what he was trying to tell, to watch the movies repeatedly and to go deeper. And with Eyes Wide Shut, we see so many clues, so many parallels, so many visual indications of what exactly he was trying to tell us all along. Throughout the movie, we see several redheads forming an archetypal journey leading from a certain place to another place. We have Helena, young girl, redheaded. We have Domino, streetwalker, redheaded. We have Mandy, mansion prostitute for the elite, redheaded. And we have Alice, Helena's mother, redheaded, and having dreams of orgies and essentially being sort of evoked as being one of these women who have been through this whole process.
Then we were making love. Then there were all these other people around us. Hundreds of them everywhere.
And in the end, she hands her daughter Helena to the cult.
Hey.
So that's essentially what he's showing, right? He's showing the sequence where a child is being trapped and where she ends up, namely in one of these mansions where the elites go to release their demons. So we're dealing with both young women and girls and young girls being sort of subsumed into this very, very dark world, right? And Stanley Kubrick is showing us this, right? He's showing us that yes, there are young women, but these young women were probably once children when they were brought into it. So he shows two things at the same time, And that's the thing with Kubrick, he is incredibly sophisticated, he's very subtle, but he is a visual, contextual, subliminal genius. A lot of the stuff he shows you is not even meant to be registered consciously, but once you start watching the movie more, the unconscious aspect of the movie become conscious and the movie starts to reveal its secrets. And the mansion where this ritual takes place, where we see these young women first being visually presented as children, that takes place in a former Rothschild's mansion. Why is that important with the Epstein stuff? I mean, the Epstein stuff took place in America, right? I mean, the Rothschilds are based in Britain, so what's the connection there? Well, in one of the released emails, we have Epstein writing Peter Thiel, and Jeffrey Epstein is writing him, as you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds. And I would even say that out of the 3 million files that we had released in January, those 4 words, I represent the Rothschilds, those are the most important pieces of data that we have from this massive corpus of released files. Because it shows you that there's a link, of course, between America and Britain. And remember, Ghislaine Maxwell's father was deeply embedded in British intelligence. So what we know now is that the Rothschilds, working with the intelligence community globally, specifically Britain, America and Israel, were casting a wide web of seduction to lure in men, some women as well perhaps, but mostly men, to sort of have strings to pull in different industries, in different countries, what have you, yeah? And of course, MI6, Mossad, CIA, their currency is information, right? Is intel, is intelligence. They are working together in ways that we are not aware of, right? And we know now that the Epstein operation was very much a blackmail scheme. It's more than that. It's definitely more than that. But they're absolutely also dabbling in blackmail. In the beginning of the movie, at Victor's party, right, this is one of the guys who are part of the cult, and he has many similarities with Epstein, right? He is from a certain place in the world. He lives in New York City in a big townhouse mansion. He's probably a Wall Street financier, and he is essentially sort of running at least a part of this secret society, especially when it comes to hosting big parties, bringing in prominent individuals, and I believe putting them in some very compromising positions. And I think that is exactly what is happening with Bill in the beginning, where these 2 young seductresses are leading him to the end of the rainbow, right? They're leading him probably to a secluded room that is going to be recorded. That does not mean that Victor is Epstein, but it can point to Victor being a similar archetype to Epstein and having certain things in common with him. But there's also another character that some people have pointed to as a possible representation of Epstein, and that is Carl. A man who have kind of like a similar jaw to Epstein perhaps. He's a math teacher, like Epstein used to be, and he's married to a woman named Marion, which of course is the middle name of Ghislaine Maxwell. So the movie is full of these references, full of these archetypes, full of these clues, full of these world-building elements that very much seem to parallel what is going on in society. But perhaps his most clever trick in the movie is at the mansion party, where he, in masking the members of the secret society, actually reveals them. So in this video, we're gonna travel to the mansion. We're gonna say the password Fidelio. We're gonna gain entrance. And then we're gonna look around. We're gonna look at the attendees. And we're gonna look at their deformed humanoid masks to see if we can figure out the person hiding beneath.
Please, come forward.
Alright, so here we have Bill pulling up to the gate of Somerton. I noticed it, by the way, how the sign goes from being on the right side to the left side. That could be significant as well, if you guys are familiar with the left-hand path, right? But Kubrick does that throughout the movie, kind of change the locations of things and bears or whatever. teddy bears. There's no real bears as far as I know. I've watched the movie a few times and I have not seen any grizzlies walking around. But he does stuff like that, right? Making things disappear, new things appear, such as in the lab of the bear, right? At one point has a boner, in the other there is a Barbie doll, voodoo doll. I think it's to evoke that it's sort of like not the normal world anymore. It's more like, I mean, the movie is based on a book called Dream Story, and this movie and other of his movies as well very much operate within an interstice between waking reality, normal, ordinary consciousness, and then sort of like an otherworldly type realm where things are not as they seem. But yeah, I wonder, Hatar, when they realize that he's an intruder, what do you guys think? Is it when he stands here, when he pulls up in a taxi, not a limo? Is it the type of mask that he's wearing? Is it the way he is sort of moving around the place? Is it the way he nods his head? What is the telltale sign that he doesn't belong there? Maybe there are several. Who knows? He's just going there to like check out some hot chicks and then he's like hanging out with the Illuminati, you know? Just a casual Friday. No big deal. And speaking of the story very much exploring the unconscious, right? The dream realm and what lurks there. We see that the gate into the mansion is purple. This is interesting because the sphere of Yesod in Kabbalah, which is the realm of the unconscious and dreams and the sexual life force, belongs to Yesod, and Yesod is purple, right? The sphere is purple. So that could be a Kabbalistic color symbolism right there. All right, guys, let's put on our masks here and let's get ready to be observant, discerning, and see if we can figure out the faces hiding behind the masks by judging the masks themselves. At this point, we don't know that these are women. They are kneeling here, their cloaks are veiling their feet. So just judging purely by the visuals that we are presented with here, they very much look like a certain short-statured group of society. And there are, of course, different types of masks in this party. We do have these masks that we're going to be analyzing today that are more humanoid but quite deformed. But then we also have Venetian masks, and that points to the masquerade culture of Vienna, where the book that the movie is based on takes place. And we don't really see them down here. We have these Venetian masked people in the higher level on the balcony. Could point to a hierarchy within the order here, where the people down here with the sort of more humanoid masks that actually point to real individuals, they're sort of more like the contemporary members of this society, where the people standing above them with the Venetian masks pointing back to Vienna, they are the very old families. They're the ones who have been members of this for a very, very long time, with ties going back to Vienna and perhaps even further back. And talking about masks, what type of mask do you think that the temple women here are wearing? Because they seem a bit different from the other ones. Right, here we are. We are seeing some of the masks here. Are you seeing anything at all? So far, I'm not seeing anything. This is more like a Bauta mask, by the way. So this is like one of the Venetian masks. And I don't know. So far, I'm not really seeing anyone that I can pinpoint.
Oh, I know now.
Where?
Let me get back to this, do you know? Give me 2 seconds. There's a doll face here. I know exactly who it can be. Just give me a second. Oh yeah, it's Barbara Walters.
So you talk about this one, right?
You see this resemblance?
The resemblance is uncanny, I agree. And what about the red cloak? He also has one of these masks that are deformed, yes, but also quite humanoid. Could he point to a certain person? And these two might in fact be Milledge and the young girl at Rainbow Fashions, right? We have the same, I think, quite intense eyes. And of course, in this mansion, the masks are actually revealing who the people really are. And in Rainbow Fashions, we have the young girl being very impassive, right? She's not showing a lot of emotion, almost have like a doll type face. But if we go with the masks actually revealing who they are, We see a tear here, which of course shows that she is very sad about her situation, right? That she's trapped by this monster, basically. But yeah, anyway, let's continue. And it might be that Bill is wearing a mask that does not fit in with the sort of visual style of the society. Could also be that he is showing that he's not part of the society by nodding in that way. Maybe he should have done something else. Maybe he should have bowed. Maybe he should have done like a hand signature. Oh, and here we have this mask here that someone says looks like a certain someone, but we'll see that mask later, I'm quite sure. So let's just continue for now. And their masks are actually quite similar, you know, with the white down here and the gold up here. So this is the Mandy character, but it's actually not the same actress. So Kubrick has probably several of the same characters in the scene that we also see outside the scene, but the actors are different. Why might that be? One possibility is that it's sort of like nightmarish, dreamlike, so things are just different there, right? They're quite uncanny, they're quite weird. What about this guy? What about this guy? Who might that be? Who does that look like? Is that a young Dershowitz, maybe?
Stephen Hawking, yeah.
Stephen Hawking's. It's an interesting mask because it's the most humanoid mask that we see in the entire scene, and I've always wondered, like, who is that? What does this mask signify? I don't even know, like, what type of hat is that? Do you know that?
It's like a sailor hat, I guess.
Sailor hat, yeah. Could well be. Obviously, Alice has fantasies being with a sailor. Sailors could also be quite significant. The movie has many parallels with Canaan, right? Where they had these goddess cults, and Israel is also in Canaan. And we have members of this society coming from there. And the Canaanites, specifically the Phoenicians, were master sailors. And of course the ocean represents the unconscious, dreams, so there's some parallels there. But anyway, could be that he is a sailor. So this is the most humanoid mask that we see in the entire movie, so I'm curious what you guys think that this mask might signify and who it might represent, if it actually represents anyone. And I'm not even buying it that these masks represent anyone, but I thought that it would be interesting to take another look at this scene and see if we can spot some people. So if this guy is actually a sailor, represents a sailor, then this could also represent Bill's unconscious fears of having his woman taken away by a sailor, you know? Because you can also look at this scene as being very much him diving into his own unconscious, right? So it could be an unconscious fear of having his woman taken away by a sailor. Who knows? One of you guys commented that this music is from Tamil in South India. Thank you very much for that information, by the way. But very much seems like a tantric type song. So a lot of masks here, guys. Who's that? Who's that guy? I want to know who this guy is. Any theories? Now there are also these types of masks here that are very abstract. That certainly points to the masked party that the Rothschilds held, where Lady Rothschild herself was wearing a mask with, I think it was a moose mask or something like that, with horns. But there were also other people there, very prominent people. Audrey Hepburn was there as well. And they were wearing these very strange, geometrically interesting configurations, and some of them very, very tall masks with strange hats on and interesting geometric shapes, stuff like that. So we're seeing different classes of masks, if you will. We've seen the Venetian masks, we've seen the sort of geometrically complex Rothschild Mansion party masks, and we've seen these more humanoid, deformed humanoid masks. And here we see a bunch of young women, and I do believe we see at least Nuala Windsor here, one of the seductresses from the beginning of the movie. I think this is Nuala, and that means that one of these women might be the blonde, but I definitely think that's her. I think he's like, is that Nuala? So this is where the rainbow ends, huh? This is also an interesting detail. This woman here wearing a red dress because the other attendees are wearing black. But this woman here is wearing red. Of course, red is a very significant color in this movie. with the priest with the golden mask wearing a red cloak. And he very much seems to be the central authority of this ceremony. And now we see a woman with a red dress on, and notice that she's actually holding down the hands of the woman. Could that point to the fact that there are also women in this society that are essentially tethering these women to this cult, keeping them entrapped? That is not just men, but there are also women in some very powerful places as well. Of course, when we look at the Epstein situation, it's basically all women, young women, girls, who are the victims. But we of course have Ghislaine Maxwell as well. And of course, when we look at the Rothschilds, it's not just men, right? There are also women who play prominent roles in that family, such as the Lady Rothschild, who held this masked party that is quite similar to this one in terms of the masks that the attendees wore. But anyway, let us know down below what you guys think. Who is this woman in the red dress holding this young woman's hands down? What might she represent? Is she the female counterpart of the red cloak? And her mask, what might that signify? I'm sensing some solar theme here perhaps, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe we'll see her later. And over here we have a guy with a devil mask, right? A quote by Shakespeare springs to mind: "Hell is empty and all the devils are here." And by the way, Atar, notice here, it's like, I think this is like almost the first time that I noticed this as well. You always notice something new in this movie, and now I'm noticing this guy, that they're having sex on this dude, and he's wearing a black mask. So I definitely think that this is the inspiration for the black masked servants in Squid Game, who are servicing the VIPs watching the games. But anyway, let's continue. I hope he gets a good hourly pay, because that's quite the gig. It's like, can you imagine reading the job description for that role? So you're expected to be basically a sex couch all evening. In a very nice environment, good food, healthy work culture. You have some interesting colleagues, but you also have to be an orgy table as well. Some people actually think that this is Domino. And one thing that I think could point to this being the case is that she's wearing a collar, right? Showing that she's very much being controlled by this man. And when we first meet Domino on the street, she's very much garbed like the Russian string puppet from Pinocchio, right? Who's also being controlled. So I'm not really sure. I've listened to her voice and looked at her eyes, but I haven't been able to really verify it within myself at least, whether or not that's her. But I'm curious what you guys think. Is that Domino? Is it someone else we've seen? Or is it simply just an anonymous woman in this mansion party?
But you must go now.
And I very much think that this High Priestess, like the High Priestesses in ancient cults, such as the Eleusinian Mysteries, has sort of extra psychic abilities. She basically intuits that the guard is coming before he has arrived. So that could point to her having perhaps some telepathic abilities. Or maybe she actually did see him, that could also be. But how did she spot that he doesn't belong there? Is that also because of the mask, certain behaviors? Or does she have extra psychic abilities that enables her to deduce that he doesn't belong there? And here we have Nick being led out of the mansion. And by the way, guys, what are these guys doing? Are they just standing in this hallway, guarding the hallway? Or are they actually standing outside doors leading into other rooms? But that's worth considering, because these people, they are anonymous, right? They're wearing masks. They are having sex everywhere. Men can be with men, women can be with women. Nothing is off the table. So why would there be guards standing outside rooms? Could that point to the fact that some stuff is going on in this mansion that is simply too disturbing to show in a movie? And it's stuff like this, right? It's these suggestions, right? It's these hints that Kubrick gives us that makes me feel very certain that those missing 20 minutes are not real, that there are no major scenes that have been removed. It's all here for us to analyze. Kubrick had final cut authority over all his movies after Spartacus, and the people that put the final touches on the movie, some color grading, some music stuff, nothing major. They were the people that were in his inner circle, right? It was his closest assistant who actually plays the Red Cloak character. It was his brother-in-law. It was his chief editor who he had been working for 15 months in a row with on this movie, almost every day. And his widow, who he was very close to. And his daughter has said that this is the final movie. The actor who plays Nick Nightingale, Todd is his name. He's a very good director, by the way. Check out Tar, has some Kubrick-esque elements as well.
Sure. All right, whatever. That's your choice. I mean, after all, a soul selects her own society. But remember, the flip side of that selection closes the valves of one's attention.
And what Todd said after watching the first screening of the movie was that it very much appeared to him as a first cut of the movie, and he was sure that Kubrick would have worked on it several more months, but not with anything sort of major, more sort of color grading, some pacing stuff, maybe even some voiceover, we're not sure about that, but all the proof points to this being the final movie. The missing 20 minutes is an unfounded theory. Everything is here, right? He doesn't have to show these things up front. He can show these men standing outside doors leading to where? Engage your imagination, right? He doesn't have to show a certain short-statured group of society being in this mansion. He can show the women kneeling with their cloaks hiding their feet, so it actually looks like they belong to said short-statured group, right? He's not going to show this stuff up front, but he can indicate it. Rant over, let's continue. Okay, guys, Hatar, now we see a bunch of these masks, and let's see if we can spot some people potentially. Here we have the Venetian powder mask. Actually, some people are looking at this mask and being like, wait, is that a certain currently sitting president in a certain country? There's a little bit of an to that mask and the fact that it's orange. What do you think, Hatar? Does that look like someone you know? What do you guys think? Is this a certain currently sitting president in a certain country? Let us know down below.
Oh my days, it's Donald Trump, man.
Oh my god, this party is so good, you know? The women are so beautiful. Yeah, I don't know. It's a curious theory, like I could definitely see Kubrick being like, yeah, let's do that. Let me reveal the people by the masks they are wearing. What about this fella right here? Does it look like Alan Dershowitz, maybe? What do you think? This one actually looks like from, what is it called, like Justice League? The woman who flies around. It's actually a really dope mask.
Wonder Woman, are you crazy, dude?
Not Wonder Woman, it's the other one. With she has like a morning star. So who might this be? This is a very humanoid mask right here.
That's Stephen Hawking. Have you seen him, man?
Okay. Is Stephen Hawking actually connected to this stuff? Because like, what can he do? He's like in a wheelchair. He can't even...
Oh man, he underage girls at his parties. The internet that he had under...
Okay.
And he was on the famous island as well, multiple times.
He was what? On the island? Really? Is it...
Science conferences.
Science conferences on the island?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he went on a submarine to around the island to just
Yeah.
been underwater before, so that was a big thing for him, you know.
So Epstein, he made that happen or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy. You guys, help us out here, okay? Who are we seeing here, okay? We're seeing a member of the Justice League. We're seeing an exceedingly ugly facial mask here. What else? Okay, I'm not gonna lie. That actually could look like George Soros right here. With the hanging eyes and everything. This guy just popped into my mind now that I'm trying to like do some patternicity here. Could kind of look like Joe Biden when he's being asked a not easy question by a journalist and he gets angry at them.
Are you a junkie?
What do you say?
That's Terminator, man. That's Schwarzenegger.
Oh, Oh, I know who this guy is. This is this is I forgot the name. Looks exactly like this one. But what I'm very curious about is actually who the red cloak might signify, if indeed he signifies anyone. But guys, help us out here. What are you guys saying? Is it a ridiculous theory? The way that I have viewed these masks is that they are actually, yes, revealing who these people are, not their specific identities, but the fact that they are deformed, demonic, yeah? So in outer society, right, at parties like Victor's, they show up very cordial and civilized, but then they go out to the outskirts of the city, put on the mask to really reveal who they are, which are deformed degenerates. But who knows, maybe some of these masks do reveal certain identities. Could also be that it's historical figures, right? Because the red cloak is sitting on a throne with a papal tiara behind him, right? Pointing to the Catholic Church, which in turn points to Rome. Could he look like a Roman emperor, senator, a certain pope? Because this order goes back far into history, right? It's not just a contemporary phenomenon.
Let him go. Take me. I am ready to redeem him.
You are ready to redeem him?
Yes.
Are you sure you understand what you're taking upon yourself in doing this?
Yes.
He actually seems genuinely worried, I feel. Like he's a very cold individual, but he's like, are you sure? Because I'm sure that he even values her in a certain way, right? I do believe that she is the High Priestess of this order. And she's probably trained to become a High Priestess since she was, very young, right? So there's been a lot of investment put into that. You know, they don't just take her from the street, right? She's been in this for a long time, probably from a very wealthy family, right? The priestesses in ancient times were daughters of the elite. And I think that this is very much the case here as well. And of course, Helena is also from a very, can you say, prominent family. Not Bill's family, but Alice's family, because we hear that she ran an art gallery in New York once upon a time.
I used to manage an art gallery in Soho.
That's not just something you do. This is something that the ultra wealthy do as a hobby, as a vanity project. Most of these, I think like 30% of all art galleries are actually in deficit. Almost none of them are profitable. They do it for other reasons, tax reasons, trend reasons, trend manipulation reasons, and networking reasons. So Alice, no doubt, comes from a very, very wealthy family. That's how she was brought into it, and that's how Helena is brought into it. That's all that we have regarding this interesting theory. I don't know if I buy it. It's interesting to have a look at, and it's interesting to consider, but yeah. But let us know down below what you guys think. Did you spot any people behind the mask, judging by the mask themselves? Let us know, let's get a discussion going, and until next time.